It happened about 4 years ago. I was driving home after visiting my parents, who lived a few hours away, taking a long stretch of highway that cuts through nothing but farmland and woods. It was close to 1 a.m., that eerie time when the road feels like a tunnel, and your headlights are the only proof that the world still exists. About halfway through the drive, I felt myself getting tired. My eyelids were getting heavy, and the hum of the tires started to lull me into that dangerous, sleepy daze. So I decided to pull over at a rest stop I'd passed before, one of those isolated ones with a couple of vending machines, a bathroom, and a single flickering light above the parking lot. When I pulled in, there were no other cars, just me and the sound of the engine cooling down. I turned it off, reclined the seat, and closed my eyes for a minute. The air felt heavy, and the silence was almost too complete. No insects, no wind, nothing. Just that buzzing light outside. A few minutes later, I heard a sound. It was faint at first, like the crunch of gravel under a slow step. I sat up, glanced around, and saw nothing. Maybe it was just my imagination. Then it came again. Crunch, crunch, getting a little closer. I leaned forward and looked through the windshield. There was a figure walking slowly across the lot, from the direction of the bathroom building. I couldn't make out much, just a tall silhouette, moving in an oddly stiff way, almost dragging one leg. I figured maybe it was a trucker stretching his legs, or someone who'd stopped to rest like me. I turned on the engine to be safe, but I didn't move. The figure kept coming until it stopped directly under the flickering light. That's when I saw it better. It was a man, but something about him was wrong. His clothes were filthy, like he'd been crawling through mud. His head tilted slightly to one side, and I swear, he was smiling. He stood there for a moment, staring straight at my car. Then, slowly, he raised his arm and pointed, right at me. I froze. My mind couldn't process what I was seeing. Then he started walking faster, not quite running, but fast enough that every instinct in me screamed to go. I threw the car in reverse, spun the wheel, and floored it out of the lot. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I glanced in the mirror as I sped off. He was standing at the edge of the light now, arm still raised, watching my taillights fade into the dark. I drove another 30 minutes before pulling into a gas station that had people inside. I sat there for a while, hands shaking, trying to convince myself it was just some deranged drifter. A few days later, out of curiosity, I looked up news from that area. There was a short local report about a body found near that same rest stop, a man who had been dead for over a week. The article said he'd likely been hit by a car or truck and dragged off into the brush. They released a photo of the scene. The picture showed the same broken light pole, the same cracked vending machine, and a muddy shoe print right in the middle of the lot, leading toward where I had parked. I still drive that road sometimes, but I never stop there again. Because every time I pass that stretch of highway at night, that flickering light is still there. And I swear, just for a second, I can see a figure standing under it, waiting. I used to work as a night security guard for a small office complex on the outskirts of town. The job sounded easy. Sit in the booth, check the cameras every hour, and patrol twice a night. Simple enough, right? The building was mostly empty after 8 p.m. Only a few cleaning staff would come and go until about 10. Then it would just be me and the silence. At first, I didn't mind. I liked the quiet. But that changed on my fourth night. Around 1 a.m., I was doing my usual camera check. Everything looked normal, except one feed. Camera 4, The east hallway had a flicker. Just static. I adjusted the screen, but it didn't come back. I made a note to report it in the morning and went back to scrolling on my phone. About 20 minutes later, the motion detector alarm for the east hallway beeped. That same hallway. I froze. No one should have been there. The cleaning crew had already left. I switched to the hallway's backup feed, an older camera with a narrow view. For a second, I thought I saw something. A shadow, maybe. But when I leaned closer, the screen cleared, and there was nothing. I grabbed my flashlight and keys, forcing myself to check it out. The hallway lights were dim, flickering slightly like old fluorescent tubes. As I walked down the hall, the air felt colder, unnaturally cold. Then, I heard it. Footsteps. Soft, bare. Following me. I spun around. No one. I shined my flashlight down the entire corridor, but it only reflected off the exit sign at the end. I tried to calm myself, muttering, "Just your mind, dude. Chill." When I turned back, I froze. At the very end of the hall stood a man. He was facing the wall, head tilted down, completely still. I couldn't see his face, just a pale outline and a long coat hanging loosely from his frame. "Sir," I called out, "you can't be here." "This building's closed." He didn't move, not even a twitch. I started walking closer, heart pounding harder with every step. The closer I got, the more wrong he looked. His feet weren't touching the floor. They hovered just above it, like his body wasn't quite there. When I was about 20 feet away, his head snapped toward me. Not turned, snapped. In one unnatural motion. The flashlight flickered. His face was pale, eyes wide and black like empty sockets. His mouth opened, but instead of a scream, I heard static. The same sound from camera 4. I ran. I didn't care about my job anymore. I bolted straight to the security booth, locked the door, and stared at the monitors. Camera 4 was working again. And there, standing in the east hallway, right in front of the camera, was him, looking directly at it. At me. I called my supervisor, who didn't believe me, of course. When he came in at dawn, there was no sign of anyone. The hallway was empty. But when I checked the recordings before leaving my shift, Camera 4's footage was blank, just white noise, except for one thing. Right before the feed cut, a faint whisper came through the speakers. It said, "Keep watching." I quit that job the next day. But sometimes, when I walk past the old building on my way home, I swear I can still see him through the windows, standing there in the hallway, watching me back. When I first moved to Chicago for college, I couldn't afford my own place, so I found a cheap apartment through an online listing. The guy who posted it, Evan, seemed nice enough. He said he already lived there and was just looking for a roommate to split rent. The apartment was old, but cozy. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a creaky wooden floor that groaned whenever you walked too fast. Evan had the master bedroom, and I took the smaller one down the hall. For the first few days, everything was fine. Evan was quiet, polite, and usually gone by the time I woke up. I assumed he worked early shifts, or maybe nights. We rarely saw each other, but I'd hear him moving around sometimes. Doors closing softly, the fridge opening, footsteps in the hall. But after about a week, things started to feel off. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of someone walking slowly down the hallway. Creak. Pause. Creak. I figured it was Evan, but the sound stopped right outside my door. I waited for him to move again, but he didn't. The silence felt heavy, pressing against my chest. Finally, I said, "Evan? You okay, man?" No answer. I got out of bed, opened the door, and looked out into the hallway. It was empty. Still half asleep, I shrugged it off and went back to bed. The next morning, I asked Evan if he'd been up late. He frowned and said, "Nah, I was at my girlfriend's place last night." I laughed awkwardly. Weird. Thought I heard someone walking. He didn't respond. He just stared at me for a second. Too long. Then went back to eating his cereal. After that, the noises got worse. Some nights I'd hear whispering coming from the living room. Low, indistinct words like someone having a hushed argument. But whenever I checked, the room was empty. Then one night, I heard my bedroom door open. Not a creak, a full, slow turn of the knob. My heart froze. I stayed perfectly still, pretending to be asleep, eyes half open. Through the thin slit of vision, I saw the door open wider, and a shadow slipped inside. It stood near the corner, just breathing. I didn't move. I didn't blink. It stayed there for what felt like hours before slowly turning and walking out. The next morning, I asked Evan again if he'd come into my room. His face went pale. "I haven't been here since yesterday morning," he said quietly. "I stayed at my girlfriend's again." That's when I started to panic. I went to the building manager and asked about the previous tenants. He looked uncomfortable and said, "You're in 2B, right?" That unit's had a few issues. When I pressed him, he finally told me. The original tenant, a guy named Evan, had died in that apartment 3 years earlier. Carbon monoxide leak. My stomach dropped. "Wait, 3 years ago?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah. Why?" I didn't answer. I just turned and left. When I got back, the apartment felt colder, quieter. I packed my things as fast as I could, but before leaving, I glanced into the kitchen one last time. I nearly screamed. Sitting at the table was Evan. Same flannel shirt, same quiet stare. He smiled faintly and said, "You're leaving already?" I ran. I never went back to that place, and I never found out who or what that thing was. But sometimes, when I scroll through old apartment listings, I still see it. The same ad, same photo, same name. Room for rent. Ask for Evan. It was close to midnight when my car started sputtering on Highway 49. I'd been driving home from a work trip, exhausted, half listening to the radio when the engine began to cough and die. I pulled over to the side of the empty road, surrounded by miles of nothing but pine trees and fog. No service. I sat there for a few minutes, hoping another car would pass by. None did. Then, out of the mist ahead, I saw a faint glow, a flickering red sign, a gas station. I decided to walk. The sign buzzed weakly as I got closer, its letters barely hanging on. Hillview Gas. The building looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 70s. Dusty glass windows, peeling paint, and a single dim light above the door. Inside, it smelled of old coffee and motor oil. The aisles were half empty, the shelves stocked with expired snacks. Behind the counter sat a man in a trucker hat reading a newspaper. "Car trouble?" he asked without looking up. "Yeah," I said. "Just died on the road. Can I use your phone?" He nodded slowly. "Phone's in the back. But it don't always work." I went behind the counter to the back room. The phone hung crookedly on the wall. I picked it up. Deadline. When I came back, the man was gone. I frowned, calling out, "Hello?" No answer. I stepped around the counter, and that's when I noticed the newspaper he'd been reading was dated August 12th, 1987. Suddenly, a sound came from the far end of the store, the ding of the door opening. I turned, expecting another traveler, but no one was there. The door stood wide open. the fog curling in like slow-moving smoke. Then I heard the faint patter of footsteps coming from the back hallway. Heavy, dragging steps. I froze. "Sir? You okay?" No reply, just that steady, uneven sound, getting closer. The air grew colder. My breath came out in white clouds. Then the lights began to flicker. I backed away slowly until I bumped into something. The counter. I turned, and the man was standing there again. Same spot. Same newspaper. But his skin looked pale, waxy, and his eyes were milky white. He smiled, cracked lips pulling too wide, and said, "Told ya. Phone don't always work." I bolted out the door. I didn't stop running until I saw headlights in the distance. A truck driver pulled over and gave me a lift into town. I told him what had happened, still shaking. When I mentioned Hillview Gas, his expression darkened. "That place burned down in 1987, he said quietly. "Owner died inside." I didn't believe him until the next morning when I went back and found nothing but a foundation covered in weeds and ash. But when I drove past that stretch of highway a week later, I saw it again. That same red glow, flickering faintly through the fog, and a man standing by the door, waiting. It was around 2:45 a.m. when I first heard the tapping, just a soft, rhythmic sound, like someone gently knocking on glass. At first, I thought it was just a branch brushing against my window. I lived alone in a small ground-floor apartment near the woods, so strange noises weren't unusual. I tried to ignore it, pulling the blanket tighter and turning my head away. But then it came again. Tap, tap, tap. This time, slower, more deliberate. My heart started beating faster. I sat up, squinting through the dark. The only light in the room came from the faint glow of a street lamp outside. And that's when I saw it. A silhouette, standing just beyond the curtain. I froze. Whoever it was wasn't moving, just standing there, waiting. I tried to convince myself it was a shadow, maybe my imagination. But when the tapping came again, louder this time, I knew it was real. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, shining it toward the window. For a second, I saw a man's face. Pale skin, dark sunken eyes, lips curled into a smile that didn't look human. Then he ducked out of view. I jumped out of bed and backed toward the door. My hands were shaking as I tried to call 911, but when I looked at my phone, the screen was frozen. No signal. That's when I heard it again. This time from the kitchen window. I crept out slowly, my bare feet silent against the wooden floor. The house was dead quiet, except for that same steady tapping. When I peeked around the corner, he was there, pressed against the glass, his head tilted to one side, like he was studying me. His grin stretched impossibly wide, teeth glinting in the dark. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. He didn't move, just raised one finger and tapped the glass again, eyes locked on mine. I ran into the bathroom and slammed the door, locking it. I could hear footsteps moving around outside, slow, dragging steps circling the house. Then silence. I stayed there for what felt like hours, until I finally worked up the courage to peek out. When I did, the windows were empty. He was gone. The police came later that morning. They found footprints in the dirt outside, bare feet. The prints led into the woods and stopped. No sign of anyone. I tried to move past it, but a few nights later, I woke up again. 2:45 a.m. This time, there was no tapping, no sound at all. Just a small piece of paper slid under my door. One line, written in shaky handwriting. You shouldn't have turned on the light. Which story scared you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true horror stories that'll keep you up at night.